Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Overcoming Graduation. And today my guest is a man who goes by the nickname the Iron Cowboy. His name is James Lawrence and he is doing something that when I say it, you're not going to believe it. He is going to be attempting to do 50 full Ironman distance races in 50 days in 50 states. So this is a man who holds 2 world records already and is now going on to do something even more audacious than anything he's done before. He holds the world record for most half-distance triathlons in a year and then went on to break the world record for most full-distance triathlons in a year by completing 30. So now he said, why not make it a little bit harder and do 50 in 50 days? So James, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, awesome, man. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
So this is a story that I actually saw on a friend of mine's Facebook page, and I saw it, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, God, I would love to interview this guy for the show. And James was kind enough to jump on the show. He's how many days out now? Is it 8 days, 9 days?
Yeah, it's next Saturday, so we're 9 days out, I think. We're currently based in Kauai, Hawaii right now, just setting up camp, doing some final logistics prep, and getting my mind and my body right in order to attempt this.
That's fantastic. And so, and James, for the listeners, could you, for anybody who's not familiar with an Ironman triathlon, could you explain to them what that entails, or what are the components of that?
Yeah, you bet. So it's a swim, bike, run sequence in that order, and the distances break down to a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike ride, and then we wrap it up with a short run called a marathon, which is 26.2 miles.
Right, just a little cool down to help the legs loosen up, right?
Yeah, it's a jaunt.
And the other component, so again, folks, as if this wasn't hard enough, James, can you tell them a bit about the diet that you'll be utilizing for this race? And most people would assume you're going to be having gel packs and all kinds of advanced supplements and nutrition, but could you tell them what your plan is to do as far as diet goes?
Yeah, we've trained really hard and got our body accustomed to not using any gels or wafers or any of those pre-packaged type of things. And we're trying to accomplish this on whole foods, real foods. And that's what the entire campaign is about. It's about obesity. It's about health from the inside out. And it's really me proving a point that real foods can fuel me through 50 Ironmans. And so real foods should be able to fuel us through our everyday lives.
Yes, absolutely. I recently have made a small, after just talking about it now, it's like compared to what you're doing, it seems so small, but it's like I've kicked soda out of my routine at work as a source of energy and caffeine, and trained my body to just accept water and started focusing on my sleep more, and I've noticed incredible differences. So then you taking it to this extreme level of doing this, what many people would say is impossible endeavor on all real whole foods, just goes to show it's like our bodies have most of what they need already, and if we give them the right fuel, they're capable of anything. So as James was saying, this is an endeavor to help attack the problem of childhood obesity in this country, and the funds that are going to be raised will go to a documentary that will help to tell this story, to show what James did to get ready and everything he's gone through, and show the entire journey to inspire people, to motivate people to do something beautiful and audacious in their lives. So I'll be including the links to the Indiegogo page on the Overcoming Graduation website. But for now, James, I want to dig into your story because I read your background on the Indiegogo page, but I want to hear from you about who you were when you came out of college or when you graduated and how we eventually got to here. So if we could start with where you went to school, what you studied, and what graduation looked like for you.
Yeah, you may be disappointed to find out, but I'm a proud high school graduate.
Not disappointed at all. That's actually fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't go through the conventional route of a 4-year degree and then get into corporate world. I graduated from college. I wrestled for 11 years, and I was trying to make an Olympic team, and that was my life. It was everything I did. and then several shoulder injuries later and a surgery. I kind of got spit out of the system, and interestingly enough, I'm originally from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and at the time, and it still goes on today, but there's a giant rodeo every year called the Calgary Stampede, and it runs for 10 days long. And there was a radio contest I was putting on an event, and they wanted to know who could ride the Ferris wheel for the entire 10 days. And to me, that sounded like a good idea, and something that I could do, and there was a good prize purse to it. And so, yeah, I finagled and got myself onto the ride. And 10 days later, found myself the victor with no job and some money in my pocket. And so I hitchhiked a ride to Utah, where I did one semester of college, met my wife, and 15 years later, I'm still in Utah with 5 kids.
That's fantastic. And you said I might be disappointed, but actually this entire show is based off people doing unconventional things to find their passion and find their purpose in life. So this is even better, because I love when people that come on the show tell stories that help remove people's excuses from their life. You know, we're so conditioned to say, I don't have time, I don't have money, I can't do this. When in reality, pursuing your dream or making anything happen is possible, and you're living proof of this when you're willing to put in the work. So, and how old were you when you won the Ferris wheel competition?
I was 23 years old. 23
years old, okay. And so you went to one semester of college, met your wife. And so what were the next steps that came through there? Were you attempting to get into some form of a career, or did endurance sports pick you up right away?
No, they didn't. We got married and was trying to figure out what married life was all about. And I was just working. I transitioned into golfing, and I still love golf to this day. And I was working at a golf course in Utah, and ended up managing a few golf stores and some retail department golf stuff. And then we had our first baby, and found out real quick that retail wasn't gonna pay the bill sufficiently. And I ventured out and said, you know what, the American dream is to go own your own business. And so I got licensed and went and opened my own mortgage company. Okay. And was very successful with it. But then, as most of us know, 2008 happened, and it directly impacted the housing market and the mortgage industry, which I was a part of, and we literally lost everything from top to bottom. Wow. And that's kind of what spurred us into the next phase, and to the phase that we're in now. I sat down with my wife and we talked about it, and it was that moment that we said, this is the time to take some risks. And we were wealthy at the time, but we weren't really happy. And so for us, it was a great opportunity. We were kind of hitting rock bottom as far as finances is concerned, and so it was kind of a way for us to hit the reset button and actually do something that we liked. And so we took a few risks, and it put us on this path that we're on now. And yeah, we're still not super rich, but we sure are happy.
Yeah, I saw the promo video on Indiegogo, and I was reading more up on you and seeing the pictures of you and your family, and it's clear, very, very clear, even for someone who's never met you, the bond that you guys share and the love that's there. And so before we continue into this next phase, can you talk to the listeners a bit about owning your own businesses and the challenges you face in doing that? Because that's something that I actually have just started in doing this podcast, but many of the listeners, many of the people in my target demographic want to start their own business. They have the curiosity, they may even have the idea, but they're afraid to get started. So could you give them maybe some advice on ways to make a business successful, and maybe some things they may not be expecting about owning their own business?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are scared and hesitant to take that first step, but it's just like getting married or having a kid. You're never going to be ready. It's just you're going to prepare the rest of your life to be something you'll never be prepared for. And it's just really, you're going to learn as you go, and you're going to make mistakes, and just be prepared for those mistakes. But one of the biggest things that I see with people, and the biggest reason that I'm successful, is I never quit. And I never gave up on what my dream was and what my passion is. And I think you want to create a business that's your passion, and it gives you that outside chance, or that better chance at not quitting. But man, there was so many times where just the logistics on this thing were insane, and there were, countless times where it just didn't seem possible. And it's one of the big reasons why people think it's impossible, is due to the logistics. And people don't realize, but we're running a small business trying to put this together. Try to run 50 different events in 50 states over 50 days is no small task. So I lost my mortgage business, but I started whatever, I don't know what you want to call this business, but it's definitely like running a business. So for me, it was just not quitting and never giving up, and just always finding a solution to the problem. And it was amazing having the conviction that we had, knowing this is what we wanted to do, and then just working our tails off to do it, and the pieces just fall into place one after another. And next thing you know, we're starting one of the biggest endurance challenges we've ever faced in less than 10 days.
And it's amazing to be on the precipice of it. And I think what you said is a critical lesson for all of the listeners, is that so many people, when they talk about creating something that's your passion, or living in a job or a career that's your passion, they think it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows. And that's not the case. From every entrepreneur, every small business, every big business owner I've talked to, it's not that it's always easy and always, fun and happy. It's that it's worth it. It's worth going through all the bullshit, all the challenges, all the nonsense, because you're doing what you love, you're doing what you believe in, and you're doing what you know is going to allow you to impact the most people in the most beautiful way. So, like you said, it's funny because you said it's the logistics of organizing 50 events in 50 days is insane. I think a lot of people have trouble organizing a weekend vacation, let alone 50 Ironman Triathlons in 50 states in 50 days.
Yeah, and one of the ways that we're pulling it off is we're working with, we did a Facebook call to all the states, and we ended up with 50 ambassadors, one or two in every state. And those are, I consider those employees. I don't pay them, but I'm managing 50 people, and we're managing all the logistics, and we're managing all the sponsors, and we're managing, there's just so many components that would parallel a business that we're putting into this. And so, yeah, I would absolutely say that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but the hardest part has been getting to the start line, and I am pumped out of my mind to kick this thing off. And I think the fun is about to start for me, but this has been years of trials and tough corners and roadblocks and puzzle solving and all of those things. And there was 100 times where we could have easily thrown in the towel and just said, no, this isn't possible. And I would have never got to this point, oh, this is too hard, this is obviously not the path of least resistance. But we kind of broke through all of that red tape and jumped over the barriers and pushed everything aside to bust through it. And now we're at the point, we're, like you said, 9 days out from the start line. And to me, that's going to be the fun part, because now I'm going to be able to kind of see those fruits, come to fruition, as far as working with all this. I get to meet all of these people that I've been working with for years, and I get to see the impact that we get to have, and I get to go and feel the energy in every single state and do all of these fun events. And so for me, the hard work, the reward is just about to happen. And then for us, it's not just about the 50 days. Once the 50 days is completed, that's actually when it even gets more fun for us, because my wife and I, we get to go around and talk to schools and continue to spread that message. And then obviously with the documentary, that's where we'll have a lot of impact. This isn't just a 50-day campaign to try to spread a message to as the biggest amount of people that we can over 50 days. This is something that we want to do for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. This is that big of a message, and I think it's going to take that amount of time. Big Food doesn't want us to talk about it,
right?
And they've got all the money, and so this has to be a grassroots effort, and it's not going to happen in 50 days,
right?
Which is why we got to document it. We got to tell those stories, and we got to continue to share and spread.
Absolutely. And I mean, I love what you said, that it's a big enough message and it's something that's worth it. And the thing is, it takes passionate people like you taking a wild shot, like doing 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. I love saying it because it's amazing. I'm just going to keep saying it over and over because it gets me so excited. But it takes people that are willing to break out of normal conventions, to break through what we see and believe is comfortable and safe, and to do things that get people's attention. And the thing is, with digital media, with the internet, with all of the different ways the technology is advancing, this has the ability to reach such a tremendous portion of the world and to expand beyond like even the biggest dreams that you have now. It's like it has the ability to grow and expand over the next 10, 20 years and touch so many people. And it could be the thing that inspires the parent to get in shape so they can play with their kids, to get in shape so they can be there for their kids, to have a kid set good habits at a young age so that they never have to make this big change, that health and eating right and exercise just becomes a part of their routine in their life. So I love this, and what I think many of the listeners may not expect is, through reading your history, I saw that being a badass endurance athlete was not always your physical state, that in fact there was a time where you were having trouble running a 5K. So can you talk a bit about that point in your life and what that felt like?
Yeah, I mean, coming out of wrestling, I was super fit, and then you just get into normal life and trying to provide. And next thing you know, you've got a kid, and the bills kind of just start coming in; they don't go away, and fitness kind of takes a back seat. We were going to the gym and whatnot, but I wasn't dying.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Stretch, but I wasn't as active as I probably should have been. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we did the first 4 mile fun run with my wife, and yeah, it was just a huge eye opener for me. My heart and lungs kind of hurt the rest of the day, and I had that cough, and so for me it was just a huge, like I said, an eye opener, and she proceeded to tell me I was pathetic. And lovingly signed me up for a marathon, which was five months later. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what kickstarted it all. I kind of dove in and learned as much as I could about running, and I didn't necessarily enjoy it at first. I guess it's that whole concept of sticking to something and pushing through some barriers and some uncomfort. And that who knew that struggling through a 4 mile fun run, this many years later, we'd have the 2 world records, and then embarking on something that could possibly or is bigger than us, and we're looking to have the impact that we want to have.
Yes, of course, and I think that's such a critical message as well, is that some of the biggest things in your life and in a person's life in history happen by one small step. I mean, and full well, doing these endurance races, you don't get to run a marathon or complete a triathlon without taking one step at a time. And it's just having the focus and the dedication to continue through when things get tough, when your knee gives out, when your arms don't feel too heavy for you to lift. It's like those are the moments where you really define how you approach life. Like I heard a quote recently that said, you don't really learn about yourself until you determine how you react when things get tough. It's easy to do things when everything's in your favor, but when shit hits the fan, that is where you really determine your character. So when you and your wife took this step into taking on these world records, can you tell us about the road from the 4 mile fun run to the first Guinness record? How did that idea start, and what did it look like training to break a world record?
Yeah, I was working for a charity at the time, and we were building dams in Africa. Mm-hmm. And
wow.
And I was looking for a non-traditional way to raise funds, and so I was combining my passion for triathlon and working for the nonprofit, and just started to do as many half Ironmans as I could. And I actually didn't set out to break the world record; it kind of just organically happened. And then once we did the half Ironmans, it just made sense for us to do the full Ironman world record. And so the training and everything wasn't very intense for the half, and then we still really didn't know what we were doing with the full Ironmans. And so I coached and trained myself through that. And since I've become a coach, because of everything that I learned and all the things, all the mistakes that I made, and so I turned that into a career. And then I've partnered with some of the brightest minds in the industry in order to get ready for this one. And the training for this one has been intense. This one, I really had to respect the journey, and I had to respect the distance. There's very little room for error when you're doing this type of duration over this time period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it almost is like it's just a totally different animal and beast. And I think anyone who has done any type of endurance athletics understands the pressure, or like almost the drive within you to do more. You know, you have your strict training regimen and you're supposed to do 10 miles that day, but you're feeling good, you want to run more, you want to just push it more. But I mean, especially for something like this, I can only imagine the specificity and just the clear distinctions that you have in exactly what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So it's one of those things where having a clear goal in mind is one thing, but then the step-by-step plan to get there is so critical. So can you tell me and the listeners a little bit about what this training, how long has this training been for this event, and what does it look like?
Yeah, we thought of this project or this goal late in 2012, right as the 30 Ironman world record was wrapping up. And that's kind of when it all started. But you know, this isn't something that you start training for at that moment. It was everything before it that has led into this. Mm-hmm. You know, the training was the half Ironmans and the full Ironmans, and really all the mental training and toughness that I gained from my wrestling, and so it's kind of been a lifetime of preparation. But the actual physical part of it, you know, we've been training specifically for this for over a year, and it's been just a lot of volume, and so we were always at risk or right at that tipping point for injury, just because our volume was so high, and any intensity that we added increased our chances for injury. And so, you know, for us to have gotten to the start line injury free and healthy has, one, been an absolute blessing, but two, it shows how intelligent my coach has been, and the thought process that we've put into getting here. And I always say, you know, it's all of the many little things that we do along the way. People always ask how I do what I do and not get hurt, or how I'm able to accomplish the things that I can accomplish, and it's not. I can never answer that question because it's not one thing. Mm-hmm. And the best way that I can answer that is it's the little things that I do along the way consistently over a period of time.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that people do, and it leads right into giving up. And so if you continue to do a multiple series of little things over a consistent period of time, that's when you'll ultimately see the greatest successes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I like to that point and talking about building up, about overcoming the mental obstacles, for anybody who is struggling to, let's say, maintain a workout program or take on a new big challenge in their life, what would be some of the recommendations you have for building up that willpower, overcoming those mental obstacles for any of the listeners who are struggling through a big challenge in their life right now?
You cut out there real quick. Can you just say that again?
Yeah. So I said that what many people find the biggest challenge is the mental aspect in making any change, taking on a new workout program. So for anybody who is struggling through that willpower challenge right now, what advice do you have to help people build up that self-confidence and that mental toughness to achieve their wild, crazy dreams?
Yeah, my two biggest things would be get a partner in crime. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about working out and doing hard things as far as starting a healthy lifestyle, it's always easiest to have someone that's going to meet you in the morning or shares the same goal as you do. I mean, every time that I have a tough workout, you know, knowing that my team is going to be there or someone's counting on me to be there, that always gets me, you know, up out of the bed. Mm-hmm. And get out there. And then, man, I had a second piece to that. Mm-hmm. My mind just went blank.
Well, you have been doing a little bit of physical activity, so I think you have permission to be tired. I think you've done a little.
Yeah, my plate is full, so I apologize for going blank on you.
Oh, no problem. I think most people, just the fact that you're training for this, you have 5 kids, you're married, it's like most people are like, how the hell does this guy do it? So to lose one little point, I bet it'll come back in a minute, so no worries.
It will.
So, but to continue on this point, so having a partner in crime, and this is something I've heard that applies from everything to business, to your physical state, to mental state. It's having someone that you trust, that you can confide in, that will push you to be better, and that you will do the same, that will help you to expand beyond your limits, and then you're going to help push them to be greater than they can even imagine. So that type of relationship, finding those good people, is so critical. And from what I see, you have a full team of people, not just a partner in crime that is helping you through this endeavor. So I believe it's 9 people, including yourself, all together. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of building a good team and what it took to build this team for this event?
Yeah, one of the biggest things you want to concentrate on is surrounding yourself with positive individuals that believe in you 100%. As you can imagine, the amount of negativity that we've received because of this, only because people don't think it's possible. I really had to be careful in selecting the people that really believed in what we were doing, just because it is a big mountain to climb. Obviously, my key team is my family. My wife, my kids are young, 5 to 12, but they're instrumental. They'll be a massive driving force for me, knowing they're going to be at every single finish line over the summer. They're coming with us. And then yeah, just hand selecting people that believed in me, that have good skill sets. And I think that's one of the biggest component is surrounding yourself with good people. And it's funny, people always, they think they know the best right person to it, and you almost have to have patience and allow it to happen over time to build that team. You're not going to build a dream team out of the gate. And that dream team assembly kind of needs to happen organically, and the right people will surface at the right time, and they'll take the right seat on the bus with you. But you just have to be patient, and the person that you maybe thought was perfect for that role ultimately may not end up being that person. And don't be disappointed, but have an open mind with the selection process, and as you go through it, and like I said, your initial top draft picks ultimately won't be your top picks in the end.
Yeah, I think this is something I've read in a lot of books, heard in a lot of speeches, that people talk about just kind of working hard to find the relationships, but letting them develop organically in a way that, you have your gut feel says a lot about people, but in your situation, these people need to have very specific skills, being project advisors, chiropractor, doctor, digital marketing ninja, which is a fantastic title there, but, massage therapist. It's like, so finding the right people for this event, which is something that really I've never heard of anything like this being undertaken, and it's got to be one of the biggest single endurance challenges ever taken on in history. So to do this, you need people, like you said, that have the positivity to push you through something that's never been done before. And so for all the listeners, any great idea, any beautiful mission has started with an idea, and then it takes one person to kick it off, but so it's going to take a whole team of people, a whole group, to build it into something beautiful. So even my podcast, which I do by myself, it would not be anything without the people who are participating, listening, sharing, and spreading the message to other people. So keep that in mind, especially when you're struggling, because like James said, there are days where even the most motivated people in the world want to quit. They feel tired. They feel down. And when you've got that great support network around you, they're going to pick you up and make sure that you don't let yourself settle for anything less than your best. So now, James, another concept that I loved that I saw in your intro video was the importance that you placed on your relationship with your wife and with your kids. because one of the most common excuses I've heard, because, working in corporate America, I've worked at 2 Fortune 500 companies, and you meet a lot of people who have decided that life is a certain way and that's just it and you can't change it, so deal with it. And I've heard people use every excuse. My kids eat poorly, so I can't eat well. I don't have time with kids to stay healthy. And what a lot of them don't realize is that their physical health, by maintaining that, they're able to be a better parent, to be there for their kids more, to be there for their wife more. So can you talk a bit to what it takes to be a good parent and a good husband, taking on these massive challenges, and how can some of the listeners who are struggling to maintain a healthy lifestyle start to incorporate these habits in their life?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I'm far from perfect, and we struggle. But the reality is that everything in life is a choice, and I think that's what we need to realize first and foremost, is that we have a choice of what we feed our kids, what we feed ourselves, the activity levels we do, and it basically comes down to education and learning about the things that are available to us. I mean, there's just so much information out there that it's no longer a day and age where we can say, I didn't know.
Right.
That excuse just kind of doesn't fly. And yes, there's a ton of information on the bad side of it too, meaning there's both good and bad about it, but you just really need to take a little bit of time and dissect, what's real and what's not. But there's enough information out there that is good, that it is a choice, and people just need to just put the smallest amount of effort in and learn just about what's good and what's not. Mm-hmm. Just because it can come down to the smallest of things that we make. It's always entertaining to see the mom who will take the time and make herself this like vegetable and real quality meal, and then she'll toss her kids hot dogs and nuggets and
right.
And she that's kind of disappointing on a massive scale. Mm-hmm. But just how valuable is your time with your kids? Because every day that that we're not giving them the attention that they need and giving them the food and the nutrition that we need, we're cutting our time with them shorter and shorter, both their lifespan and also ours. And so for me, that's one of my massive motivators. I adore my 5 kids, and I want to be with them as long as I can. I want to experience everything that they go through in life, and then I want to be there for graduations and weddings, and I want to be I want to be a grandfather, and all of those cool things that go through life, and unfortunately a lot of people aren't going to have those experiences. Obesity leads to heart disease and diabetes, and all of these contribute, and it's now the number one killer. Mm-hmm. In the United States and frankly the world, and we're killing ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I love the message that you're delivering there. And in your video, when you said you were this is like the first generation ever where parents are slated to outlive their children, that the obesity epidemic is hitting a point where people are so unhealthy that all the myriad of health-related issues that come along with obesity are just tearing people down, and it's one of the most preventable things in a lot of ways. And I loved how you said you want to be here for everything and you want to be in the optimal state to enjoy it. And what I think is a huge message is none of us know what's going to happen. None of us know what tomorrow will bring or how much time any of us have on this planet. And a perfect example is my mom, and she actually passed away last year from pancreatic cancer. And she was one of the healthiest people I've ever known. She was the person who was on green and organic and vegan before anybody else even knew what that was. And it's because of her that I know about healthy eating, that I developed those habits, that I started to like those things. So to your point, demonstrating the importance of a parent's impact on their children, like my mom didn't force it on us, but she always had us try a little bit, or even when we were little and we thought vegetables were gross, like she introduced it to us and showed us through her actions that it benefited her, and if we wanted those benefits too, it was open to us. So that impact that the parents have is so critical. And I mean, like I said, I've seen and heard parents say, like, well, my kids would never eat that, you know, and, oh, well, they won't. And it's kind of just that excuse like anything else, like, oh, well, I don't have time to work out, you know?
You're the parent. They don't have a choice. Until they're 18, you can kind of do what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've said often that children are a product of their environments, and it's so true, and I see it every single day. Proof of that. Your kids are going to eat where you go take them to the establishments you take them to eat. Your kids are going to eat the food that you bring home. The kids are going to eat what you're eating. I mean, it's just like normal habits. Your kids are going to shower if you shower. Your kids, I mean, it's just, they are literally a product of your environment. And, you've heard that you have to be careful what you say around your kids because they are like parrots and they'll repeat yourself. It's the same way with actions. Mm-hmm. Kids typically look up to their parents in such a way that they just want to emulate them and they want to be like mom and dad. And so, for us, I mean, my kids will come in. My kids will come in just because it's what we eat, and their snacks will be, cucumbers.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just come in and that's normal to them. They're not shocked if mom and dad are going on a bike ride, or if we're going on a bike ride with them, or if we're all going swimming together. I mean, it's just, those are activities that we do as a family, and they think it's very normal. Mm-hmm. And so definitely kids are a product of their environment, and so we need to be careful with all of our actions and all of our doings. And we're the ultimate example. Yeah, we're fighting childhood obesity, but we're actually trying to educate the parents, which is, I think, why your demographic that you reach out to is so pivotal. We're talking to the next generation of parents.
Right.
And they're the biggest influencers. I mean, we can go around to schools and talk to them, but they have to relay that message to their parents, and ultimately we have to get the parents taking action. And so your core audience is an audience that I'm trying to reach also, because they are that next generation that is going to be raising what is the future.
Exactly, and I completely agree. And I also I'm 25, so I'm in that demographic, and I know that, so many people, like in college, will drink their faces off and say, like, it's college, so it doesn't matter. They'll eat shitty food and say, oh, you know what, I could get in shape one day. And they'll say these things, but then once they graduate college, it's not like a switch flips and all of a sudden good habits just replace them. And so once people start getting out of college, they have less time, they're working a full-time job, and maybe they start to get kids. It's so much easier to just fall into the bad habits and get fast food, and then those habits transfer to the children. And like you said, it's a continuing cycle. And so I think there's two huge components.
I'm a testament of that. I'm a 39-year-old, and so yep. It gets increasingly harder to be healthy and remain healthy. But maintaining my fitness is so much easier than trying to gain fitness. Right. At a later stage in life. I mean, you guys are spring chickens for sure. And it is a lot easier. Your men's testosterone is up, and everything's clicking and working good. And once you guys start to get a little older, things aren't like they used to be. And I used to hear that when I was your guys' age, and I'd be like, man, that guy's full of crap. But now that I'm there, and I get crucified a little bit because. I've made, like you, I was raised, on holistic and good eats and things like that. And I get crucified a little bit because I've never been there, and I can't necessarily relate. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's necessarily super fair, only because, I've made those decisions my whole life, which is, it's definitely it's a different kind of challenge. Mm-hmm. But it's easier for me now. I'm seeing the benefits of those choices now because, I've got friends that are the same age as myself, but kind of, let themselves go through that college years thinking, oh, I can eat anything. My metabolism is fast. And then, once they hit their 30s and upper 30s, then, everything slows down and things become more difficult. And now they're in that category where, like you said, you just can't, flip that switch. Mm-hmm. And now it's becoming very difficult. And, now they're, up and down and trying to figure it out. And so I think that some of the harder choices that I've made along the way to live this kind of lifestyle has blessed me now, because it's easier to, like I said, to maintain than it is to try to have that complete transformation. And it's not easy, and I don't envy anybody that's going to go through that, but it is worth it, and it is doable, and it is all doable with food.
Yes, and you know what? I mean, to the your critics that are crucifying you by saying, "Oh, well, you've never been there, so you don't know." The thing is, there have been plenty. I can guarantee it, and that's not based off any research, but I can guarantee there have been plenty of people raised in the exact same circumstances as you that are not where you are today in the shape that you're in, taking on these incredible endurance challenges. So, to your point, it was your daily challenges, your decisions moment to moment based off the food you eat and the activity that you commit your body to that has enabled you to be where you are. For me, I believe those people that are calling you out and saying, "Oh, well, you don't know, you've never been there," it's because you make them uncomfortable because you challenge their reality. It's you doing things that are so outlandishly wonderful and like crazy that they go, "Oh, well, you know, they want to find a reason to tear you down. They want to find a reason that they can make an excuse that it's okay for them not to break out of their comfort zone." So you just keep on doing what you're doing. Let the haters hate, because what you're doing is amazing stuff, man. I've seen this with everything from people who are successful in business to in relationships. It's people who are terrified and feel that insecurity, and they don't want to look at themselves, to honestly look in the mirror and say, "I'm ready for a change," and to take that step. And they'd much rather look at the outside world and judge and criticize, because that's so much easier in their mind than taking that look inside. So, sorry, I thought I heard you coming on something there. But so one thing before we continue back on the race that I wanted to touch on that I think is so critical is you talked a lot about the education component of parents and children, but especially the parents, so that they're educated and they have the knowledge to make the right decisions when it comes to food and exercise. But another huge component that was implied through the way you were describing this was spending time with your kids. And what I think so many people think and say, they go, "Well, I'm busting my butt, I'm working at this job, I don't have time for my wife, I don't have time for my kids." So can you talk a little bit to the importance of making time for the important people in your life and how crucial that is?
Yeah, you know, one of the huge blessings in my life is my wife has really taken on to the education part of it, and really has seen the value in raising our kids up in this kind of healthy lifestyle. And one of the things that people aren't doing that they used to do, and why we're in the state that we're at, is everything is so fast-paced and so instant that nobody cooks anymore.
Yep.
And I think that's a huge component. And again, I am so lucky because my mom loved to cook and my wife loves to cook, and I think that's where we've both learned together. I'm still not a great cook, but I mean, I do make a mean breakfast. But you know, I've learned a lot from her, and I think with parenting, you know, sometimes it takes either a team or a duo, or you know, even groups where you partner with friends. I mean, Pinterest is probably a great place to learn. You know, because there's a lot of single parents out there, and I don't want to say that you have to be, you know, there has to be two of you to do it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's just been fantastic, because that's one of the times that we get together as a family, as my wife will cook and we'll all get together, and that's a great learning opportunity for us to talk to our kids. And they'll oftentimes, "Hey, Dad, is this good for me?" or "Will this make me fast?" or "Is this bad for me?" And it gives us a platform to talk about the foods that we're eating and why Mom cooked a certain way that she did, or why she did what she did. Mm-hmm. And so that's a great platform for us to educate our kids and have them be a really good product of our environment.
I love that. I mean, there's the concept of the family dinner and using that to build and grow your children, because children are like sponges and they have so many questions. And you know what, we say that about little kids and we act like that disappears, but think about young adults. Think about people that go and find reasons to be curious every day. We as humans are like sponges. I just think a lot of adults kind of just decide the world is a certain way and they stop allowing the knowledge to come in. So what you're doing with those kids is stimulating the knowledge, stimulating the questions, and providing them with valuable information that they can use their whole life. So that education piece and the time piece, because for the listeners, guys, it's your health and your time are probably the two most important things in your life. And if you really want to show somebody you love them, and if you really want to start connecting with your kids and connecting with your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend, you need to take the time to do it. You need to physically be there and be present with them, because that's how you're going to connect. And then you can have these conversations about health and fitness. So, James, I'm loving this. This is great stuff, and I know we've only.
And the other component that I just want to touch on really quick is a lot of people, they don't want to take time out for themselves.
Yes,
and I think it's super important to take a minute and better yourself and get yourself centered and balanced. And sometimes that's looked at as being selfish, but you have to take care of number one, which is you. Before you can take care of anybody else and be an influencer. And so make sure that component is also being taken care of, that you're taking that time and giving yourself the opportunity to unwind or relax or do whatever it takes, and then make sure you're on the right path and grounded, so that really you can be the influencer and have the impact that you want to have.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something I've heard from every coach, every mentor that I really value. They say the importance of taking time to recharge, to develop yourself. One writer and speaker I love named Philip McKiernan talked about, he takes a week-long trip in the Amazonian rainforest like every year and goes off and completely disconnects. It's just him and a guide for a week. And a lot of people say, well, that's selfish. What about your wife and kids? And he goes, that allows me to be a better husband and father, because I've taken that time for myself to clear my mind, to meditate, to recharge my battery so I can be there for them more. The analogy my parents always used was the airplane analogy. They say you got to put on your own oxygen mask first if you want to be able to help the people around you. So that's so critical. I'm glad you brought that up. So now to continue talking about the 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days, because like I said, I love saying it. So another component that I love about what you're doing is that this is not something where you're saying, I'm doing it and just leave me to it. I don't want anybody involved. You have given this call to everybody. You're putting this out as an open invitation for people to come join you. So can you tell the listeners about what that's about and how that's going to look during the event?
Yeah, the last thing that I want to do is do 50 of these all by myself. Doing one Ironman is probably the longest conversation you'll ever have with yourself.
Yeah.
So trust me, in training, I've had far too many conversations with myself as is. So, I'm excited to be out there, and I'm excited to feel the energy of people that come join me. And that's the whole point of this. We're trying to raise money so that we can get the awareness out there. And everyone's invited to come participate and join me for free. But we're encouraging people to donate, and we have a kind of a structured 5K, if you would, at the end of every one of my marathons. And so at the conclusion of my day, around 6:30 at night, we're inviting people to come out and run the last 5K with me. And but that also, I don't want people to think that they can't join me for any other portion of it. If you want to come swim a few laps with me or jump in the lake, you're welcome to do that. A lot of the bike courses are broken up into 28-mile loops or 56-mile loops, or you can come join me for any portion of that. And if you want to run the first 10K with me and not the last 5K, you can do that too. And so come join me for any portion of it. Like I said, the last thing I want to do is to be out there by myself. I love meeting and being inspired by the other stories that are out there. And I don't want this to be about me, and I want this to be about raising the money and raising the awareness and getting that message out there. So all of our course maps are on our website, which is www.ironcowboy.co. And if you click on the calendar there in the top bar, it'll have all of the order of the states that we're doing it in. It'll have the course maps, and it'll have the dates at which we're going to be in your state. We start on June 6th in Hawaii, and we finish in Utah on July 25th, and so just come out and participate with us, and I'd love to be accompanied by every one of you.
That is beautiful. And I know, so everyone, I made my donation before we even started this call because I want to support James and his team in doing this. And it's a small donation, but this is about something, this is a massive cause. And so even if you only give $1 to his cause, that is $1 closer to this goal of making that documentary possible and supporting James and his team in this. So if you do, like I said, I'll be posting the Indiegogo link as well as the Iron Cowboy website link on overcominggraduation.com after the interview. But please, if you have the money to give and you're inspired by this cause, please show the support, because the verbal and the written support is fantastic, and the financial support is also a very important component in making this big thing happen. And so, talking about joining James on this adventure, just think about being a part of this. Even for a mile, even for one lap in the pool, you could say you joined James when he did the 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. So that, as if it's not enough motivation, because so often I think people get caught up in me, and it's like, oh, well, I could get this or I could get that. What I've found, and what I think most people will tell you, is some of the greatest joy in life comes when you give unconditionally and without expectation of return. So although James is a super badass, and I know he could do this without any issue just by himself, having all of you come out and support him no matter where he is in the country, that's going to give him extra fuel, that's going to give him extra fire, and that's going to help him spread this message even more, because you'll be tweeting, you'll be sending pictures. So take a look at his website, get over there and check out ironcowboy.co so that you can find out when he'll be in your state and go support him in this endeavor, because this is going to be a monumental, life-changing, world-changing thing if people get involved. And the thing is, James, I know they will. I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to touch every corner of the planet. So I'm so excited for you to get started, because I know you can't wait to kick it off.
I'm so excited to kick it off. But, just to what you were just saying, it's crazy. I've been getting, we haven't even started yet, and I've gotten messages from Japan, Switzerland, Germany, New Zealand. It's just crazy. We're literally starting to impact, outside of our little circle of influence, which I had never had the wildest dream that would happen. And so yeah, and the more people that come out, and the more people that can talk and tweet and post pictures and everything, that message is just going to get bigger and bigger. And I hit on it before, but we're not going to take down big foods, and they've got so much money, and it is going to take a grassroots effort on our parts. And the more, the power of a voice is huge, and so the more of us that can band together and get out there for this one cause. Trust me, guys, this is the biggest killer in the U.S. today, and it's totally preventable. Heart disease and diabetes and all of these things that are killing our kids and your brothers and your sisters and your moms and your dads. It is all curable. It's all with food and a little bit of activity. We just have to put forth that little bit of effort. So, like I said, seriously, just come join me for a mile, or just come and say hi and give me a high five. It'll just totally brighten my day, and it'll help me to take the next step and keep going forward.
Absolutely. And guys, I've run 2 half marathons in my life, and there were times where I was dragging, and if I hadn't been with a team that was pushing me, that was picking me up, that was making sure I was okay, there were times I was struggling just at that distance. So although I know many of you are like, well, this guy's got it, is no doubt, you can be there to help pick him up and give him that extra boost and move a little quicker and run with a little more confidence, because it's all about the relationships you build and the people that you connect with. So, and I know he's going to connect with so many people. Now, James, I'm curious, so what does each day look like? When does it start and when does it end? What's the projection there?
Yeah, so once we make it past Hawaii, Alaska, and down the West Coast, then we become very consistent once we hit Nevada and the remaining 45. They're all going to start at 6 a.m. A typical swim and transition onto the bike will take me an hour and a half, so we'll be on the bike by 8:30. We're trying to go as slow as possible, but with enough time to get to the next state, and so we're shooting for 14 hours. So we've allotted myself a 7-hour bike ride, which will take us to 2:30 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And then we've allotted for a little over a 5-hour marathon, which will take us to 7:30 at night. And so we're going to be basically doing physical activity for 14 hours, mm-hmm. and then 10 hours to sleep, eat, recover, transition to the next state, and do it again for 14 hours. So 14 on, 10 off, 14 on, 10 off, basically for your entire summer vacation.
Wow. That's pretty reasonable. That is unbelievable, dude. That's insane. I mean, it's beautiful, and so do you have an RV that you're taking from state to state, or how is the travel being coordinated?
Yeah, so we've got a Fleetwood motor coach that will be traveling in. We've got a 15-passenger van and then 2 chase vehicles. So we'll have 4 vehicles with me at all times. I'm running 3 bikes that will rotate and use throughout the quest. I've got 12 pair of shoes, a lot of food, and a lot of love.
That's fantastic. 3 bikes, 12 pairs of shoes, 50 states, 50 days, 50. That's just amazing. So I know we're coming up on our hour here, and I could probably talk to you all night about this stuff. But you have a life to live and a big thing to prep for, and I got work tomorrow. So, so what I did, one thing I want to touch on before I have like a standard question I close out with, but could you talk a little bit more to the negativity that's come around this, like what people have said or the lack of approval that people may have shared? Because to me, this is something that is just purely positive, and I don't see how anyone could. But like you were talking about earlier, there are people that try to find flaws in this. So could you talk a little bit about what types of things you've heard and what kind of mental impact that can have in preparing for something like this?
Yeah, it's actually overwhelming. I would say it's 95% or greater that don't think this is possible and that have negative feelings or emotions towards it, and it baffles me. It just speaks to how I don't know what the word is, but non-visionary or open-minded or the attitude of possible. It really blew my mind that there was so many people out there that were just like, you know what, I'm content living in the rat race, and whatever BS you're talking about is not possible, so I'm not going to give it any attention. And I actually had to when articles were posted or when anything was written about me and what I'm attempting to do, I actually had to stop reading the comment sections just because it was overwhelmingly negative.
Wow.
Because and it's people that are hiding behind the keys of a message board, and they feel confident in saying whatever they want because I can't confront them and have no desire to. But they, it's just shocking to me that they don't. It's perception, right? They don't know me, and the perception is that I'm just going out there and abandoning my family and I'm going to injure myself, and I haven't put any thought into this, and I'm risking my life. And the reality is I'm going to be at a lower heart rate than the obese people in this country are every single day, 365 days a year. And so they need to be less concerned about my physical state because I've prepared for this. They need to be more concerned about their mother, their brother, or whatever that is walking around every single day climbing the set of stairs, and their heart rate spikes well beyond what mine's going to be. And so I think they're focusing on the wrong things, and like you said earlier, haters are going to hate, and haters are, they don't have that mindset, and so I've literally had to stop reading those boards because I have to go into this with 100% conviction, 100% belief, and I've surrounded myself with people that have that same attitude, and united we're on a mission, man, and it's going to take a lot to shut us down. It would have to be catastrophic, because we're literally not going to stop moving forward until we've accomplished that goal.
Yeah, the way you talk, the team you have, and just in the short time talking to you, just the fire I can hear in your heart, there's nothing that can stop you. I have complete faith in you, and my first time talking to you, man. It's one of those things where if I could look in your eye right now, I would see the fire in your eye and just know that this is something that you're committed to. And so in terms of, I think it's fascinating, and when you said 95% of it was negative, I thought it would not have been anywhere near that high, but I think that's an exciting message for the listeners in a way, which may sound kind of backwards, but the reason I say that is every book I've read, speech I've listened to, person I've met that has done something amazing, that has taken on a challenge that was bigger and greater than anything they'd taken on before, the greater majority every time was negative. Every time there were these people that wanted to tell them no, that wanted to prevent them from even trying. And James, to me, that means you're doing something right, and you're doing something that really matters, because you've set out with this truly massive, important goal to help people. And the reason it's getting so much kickback is by you accomplishing it. Like I said before, this pushes them out of their comfort zone and makes them realize, okay, what's stopping me? So that, I mean, you know what? To me, it may seem like a negative, but to me, that seems like such an encouraging thing, because what ends up happening with these things is there's all that kickback and all this pushback, and like you said, people saying this guy doesn't know what he's getting into. You know you've done the work and you've done the prep, and so as you start and get involved, I really have a strong feeling that all that feedback is just going to shift to the positive, that people are going to be inspired to see you actually going through it and achieving and succeeding. And what I think is another key point that I find very interesting, and I've seen this in more and more successful people, is choosing the information inputs that you have in your life. Because so many people say, like, well, I have to watch the news, or I have to do this, or I have to read that. But all of the inputs that we put into, just in the same way that the food we take into our body fuels our body, the inputs that we put into our mind fuel our thoughts and the way that we approach the world. So for you to continue to read those comments, it has no benefit, and it's like those aren't the people you need to focus on. It's all the supporters and all the love you're getting. Because like you said, you need to have that conviction, and you know there are people out there supporting you. And so focusing your energy there, to your point earlier of saying it's all about your focus, putting the focus there is going to help you to achieve this and exceed your goals and expectations for the event. So really amazing stuff, man. I love it.
Yeah, and the reality really is that if I impact the 5% that is believing in this, then that's a massive amount of people. Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen organically is that 95%, let's just take 20% of that 95, and they're still watching, and even probably a bigger percentage than 20%, they're still watching because they're curious, or they want me to fail, and so trust me, they're tuning in.
Yep.
They're tuning in to see what happens, and what my hope and desire is that they will be inspired along the way, and they will possibly jump camps as far as being maybe a non-believer into, holy crap, maybe he is going to do this.
Yeah.
And so, and my goal isn't to prove them wrong or to do anything like that. I'm at the point now where I'm doing this for the right reasons, and I really want to just prove myself right. I want to find out what my mental abilities are. I want to find out what my physical abilities are, and ultimately I want to have the biggest impact that I can possibly have. And it's just they're not in a space right now to hear the message, and which is another huge reason why we want to document this, because maybe it's not a time for them, but we will eventually impact them and touch those people that we don't touch during the 50 days.
Right, absolutely. And it's one of those things, like you said, I think it was in the movie about Howard Stern's life, they had a thing, they're like, all right, well, the people that like Howard Stern, how long do they listen? They're like, average 2 hours a day. And they're like, well, what about the people that hate him? They said, average 4 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get all these haters and these people that are like, they want to see a person fail, or they want to see, they're like, how could this go on? Or how, he's got to hit that point. But like you said, continuing to watch someone succeed and achieve beyond what people believe is possible, it sparks that fire and that passion that we all have inside of us, but that so many people have, covered up the flames or turned their back to the fire. That's what is the beauty of these types of things, is that it has the ability to inspire wonder in people, wonder about the world, wonder about their own capabilities. And that is one of I think it was an Andrew Stanton speech where he said that is the greatest gift you can give, is inspiring wonder and giving people hope. So, James, this has been fantastic. This is hugely inspirational for me, and I don't know how I'm going to sleep tonight because I'm all excited now. But and for the listeners, about making anything possible, I'm currently in the Dominican Republic. James is out in Hawaii, and I wasn't even sure how I'd record this, but we found a way. James was nice enough to work with my schedule and work with me on timing, so we made this happen. So again, to the point of you can make anything, and I wasn't even sure about the internet connection down here, but thank God there hasn't been a power outage today, so we're doing good. But so James, the question I always like to close these interviews out with is, because this is called Overcoming Graduation, and it's about young adults and the mindset that they have when they're reaching that age and coming out into the quote-unquote real world and how they view the world. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you were 18, 21, 22 years old and give yourself some advice knowing everything you know today, what would you say to yourself?
That's a great question. I would just absolutely say, do the things that you want to do for you, and don't listen to any of the chirping or distractions or anything around you, and just have the belief and the conviction in yourself that anything truly is possible.
That's beautiful, man. I love it. So, James, if you can hang on for a minute after the call, because now I'll do my little closeout and actually, I'm sorry, one more question for you. So, I want to make sure that people can come find you. So we've talked about ironcowboy.co is your website. Is there anywhere else that you would like people to come so they can find out more about you, what you're doing, so they can follow your adventure?
Yeah, we're going to be posting everything on Facebook and Instagram, and everything is facebook.com /IronCowboyJames or Iron Cowboy. Depending on the platform. Mm-hmm. But you can link to all of my social media through ironcowboy.co. We'll be posting both on our blog on there and a lot through Facebook and Instagram. And we'll also be doing some live streaming throughout the course of the event. And then obviously we're doing the documentary, and so there'll be opportunities there.
Fantastic. So for the listeners, as always, all of the links that James just mentioned will be on overcominggraduation.com. To subscribe to this podcast, you can visit, search for Overcoming Graduation on iTunes or on Stitcher. And to reach out to me directly to tell me how much you loved this interview and how much James inspired you, you can contact me at brian@overcominggraduation.com, and I'll pass on the love. And be sure to check out Overcoming Graduation on Twitter and Instagram to check out the social media. So, James, man, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really, truly appreciate you doing this, especially with the event coming up so soon. And I cannot wait to see you crush this event and knock out 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, so we'll close out for now. And James, if you can just hang out for a minute after the call. I just want to talk a little bit more. So for the listeners, this will be us signing off. So thank you all for listening. I love you guys. And take this moment to reevaluate where you're at and go take a step in your fitness today to make your life better for you and for the people in your life. So have a great night, guys, and we will talk to you soon. 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 And we will